Your daily coffee ritual is likely something you cherish, a moment of calm or a necessary jolt to start your day. But have you ever paused to consider what is actually happening inside that cup? It's far more than just hot water and ground beans. It's a complex and fascinating chemical reaction, a delicate dance of soluble compounds that creates the drink we love. Understanding this chemistry is the key to unlocking consistently better coffee at home. It's a journey I've been on for years, and one I'm excited to share with you. If you find this sort of exploration interesting, please do take a moment to subscribe to the channel for much more. The journey from a green coffee bean to a flavorful brew is a transformative one, guided almost entirely by chemistry. The green bean itself holds the potential, a storehouse of precursors like fats, carbohydrates, and amino acids. It is the roasting process that truly unlocks this potential, initiating a cascade of chemical reactions. The most famous of these is the Maillard reaction, the same browning process that gives bread its crust and steak its savory character. In coffee, it creates hundreds of aromatic compounds that define the final flavor profile, turning a rather grassy-smelling seed into something wonderfully complex and inviting. When you finally grind those roasted beans and add hot water, you are initiating the final act of this chemical play extraction. Water is a fantastic solvent, and its job here is to dissolve a select group of these flavor and aroma compounds and carry them into your cup. However, not everything in the coffee grounds is desirable. The art and science of brewing lie in controlling this extraction process precisely. We want to pull out the sweet, the acidic, and the aromatic, while leaving behind the overly bitter and astringent elements. Every decision, from water temperature to grind size, influences this delicate balance. Therefore, brewing coffee is less about following a recipe and more about understanding and manipulating a chemical process. It's about being an active participant rather than a passive observer. When you know why a finer grind leads to a stronger brew, or how water temperature affects acidity, you gain control. You can start to diagnose a disappointing cup and make targeted adjustments to fix it. This knowledge empowers you to move beyond simply making coffee and into the realm of crafting it, tailoring each cup to your personal preference and getting the very best out of some truly exceptional beans. Let's delve into the cast of chemical characters that make coffee. Coffee. The most famous, of course, is caffeine. It is an alkaloid, a naturally occurring compound that acts as a mild stimulant on our central nervous system. This is what provides the well-known kick, making us feel more alert and focused. But caffeine's role is not limited to its stimulating effects. It also contributes a subtle yet distinct bitterness to the overall taste profile. While it's a key player, it is only one of hundreds of compounds that come together to create the final experience in the cup. The real magic lies in their interaction. Beyond the caffeine, we have the acids, which are absolutely crucial for a vibrant and lively cup of coffee. These are not the harsh, sour acids you might be thinking of, but rather delicate organic acids that contribute brightness and fruit-like notes. Chlorogenic acids are the most abundant in green coffee and break down during roasting into other acids like quinic and caffeic acid. These compounds are responsible for what we perceive as acidity in coffee, that pleasant, crisp quality that can remind you of a green apple or a juicy citrus fruit. A coffee without sufficient acidity can taste flat, dull, and uninteresting, lacking the complexity that makes it so compelling. Then we have the aromatic compounds, the true soul of coffee's flavor. These are volatile molecules, meaning they easily evaporate and travel up to our nose, which is responsible for the vast majority of what we perceive as taste. There are over 800 identified aromatic compounds in roasted coffee, a staggering number that explains its incredible range of potential flavors. Compounds like furans contribute caramelly, nutty notes, while pyrazines can give hints of earthy or bell pepper-like aromas. Aldehydes can offer fruity and floral notes. It is this complex bouquet that gives coffee its signature scent and creates the intricate tasting notes of chocolate, berries, flowers, or spices. During the brewing process, the goal is to extract these different families of compounds in the right proportion. The fruity acids and many of the delicate aromatics tend to extract early in the brew. The sugars, which provide sweetness and body, come next. Finally, the heavier, more bitter compounds, including some of the breakdown products of those chlorogenic acids, are extracted last. This is why an under-extracted coffee can taste sour and thin. It has the acids but lacks the balancing sweetness. An over-extracted coffee, on the other hand, will be harsh and bitter, as you've pulled too many of those late-stage compounds into the final liquid. Acidity in coffee is often misunderstood, sometimes confused with sourness, which is typically a sign of a brewing flaw. Proper acidity, however, is a highly desirable trait that lends coffee its vibrancy and structure. Think of it like the brightness in a good wine or the tartness in a fresh lemonade that makes it refreshing. The main acids we find include citric acid, which gives us those lemon and orange notes, and malic acid, which is reminiscent of apples or pears. Phosphoric acid, which comes from the soil the coffee was grown in, can add a sparkling, almost cola-like quality. The type and intensity of these acids are influenced by origin, altitude, and processing method. On the other end of the taste spectrum is bitterness. While a certain amount of bitterness is essential for balance in coffee, much like in dark chocolate or a good beer, too much can be unpleasant. Bitterness primarily comes from two sources. The first is caffeine, which contributes a low-level, clean bitterness. The second, and more significant source, is the breakdown of chlorogenic acids during roasting and brewing. As you roast darker or extract for longer, these acids transform into compounds like phenylenedianes, which are intensely and often harshly bitter. This is why dark roasts are characteristically more bitter than light roasts. Controlling this balance between pleasant acidity and overwhelming bitterness is the core challenge of brewing. The key lies in managing extraction. If your coffee tastes unpleasantly bitter, it's almost certainly over-extracted. To fix this, you need to extract less. You can achieve this by using a coarser grind, which reduces the surface area of the coffee and slows down extraction. You could also shorten your brew time, stopping the process before those overly bitter compounds dissolve. Lowering your water temperature slightly can also help, as hotter water is a more aggressive solvent and extracts everything, including the bitters, more quickly. Conversely, if your coffee tastes sour, thin, and lacks sweetness, it is under-extracted. You have pulled out the fast-extracting acids, but not the sugars and other compounds needed for balance. The solution is the opposite of fixing bitterness. You need to extract more. This means using a finer grind to increase surface area, extending your brew time to give the water more contact with the coffee, or even increasing your water temperature, within reason, typically between 90 and 96 degrees Celsius, or 195 to 205 degrees Fahrenheit. By making these small deliberate adjustments, you can steer the final taste of your coffee towards that delicious sweet spot. Different brewing methods are essentially different tools for controlling extraction, each with its own scientific principles. The pour-over method, for example, is a form of percolation brewing. Water is poured over a bed of coffee grounds in a filter and gravity pulls it through into the vessel below. Here, you have immense control over variables like water temperature, flow rate, and grind size. The bloom phase at the beginning, where you add a small amount of water to let the coffee degas, is crucial. It ensures an even saturation of the grounds, preventing water from channeling and leading to a more uniform extraction. The continuous flow of fresh water tends to highlight brighter, acidic, and more delicate floral and fruity notes. The French press, by contrast, is a full immersion method. All the coffee grounds are steeped in all the water for the entire duration of the brew. This constant contact typically leads to a fuller-bodied, richer cup with a more rounded flavor profile. However, it also carries a significant risk of over-extraction. Because the grounds remain in contact with the water, the extraction process never truly stops. If you let it sit for too long, bitterness will inevitably creep in. This is why timing is critical with the French press. The coarse grind used is also intentional. It slows down extraction and makes it easier to plunge the filter at the end without too much sediment passing through. Espresso is in a league of its own, relying on pressure to achieve its unique character. It forces hot water through a tightly packed puck of very finely ground coffee at around 9 bars of pressure, 9 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. This intense process happens very quickly, usually in just 25 to 30 seconds. The high pressure allows the water to extract oils and other compounds that are not soluble under normal brewing conditions, resulting in the characteristic crema and a thick syrupy body. The fine grind is absolutely essential. It provides the necessary resistance to the high-pressure water, allowing for a proper extraction rather than just having water gush through instantly. Each of these methods manipulates time, temperature, grind size, and pressure differently to achieve a desired result. Pour-over offers clarity and highlights nuance through gentle percolation. The French press delivers body and richness through full immersion. Espresso provides intensity and texture through high-pressure extraction. Understanding these fundamental differences allows you to choose the right brewer, not just for the coffee beans you have, but for the specific type of coffee experience you are craving at any given moment. It's about matching the tool to the task to get the most delicious outcome possible. The world of specialty coffee is where this chemical potential is truly celebrated. These are coffees grown in specific ideal microclimates and are prized for their unique and complex flavor profiles, much like fine wine. Producers are now experimenting with processing methods to further influence the final taste. The traditional washed process removes the fruit from the bean before drying, resulting in a clean, bright cup that clearly expresses the coffee's inherent acidity and origin characteristics. It's a method that provides a transparent look into the bean's core flavor. In contrast, the natural or dry process involves drying the coffee bean inside the entire cherry. This prolonged contact between the bean and the sweet fermenting fruit pulp imparts intense, often wild, fruity and wine-like flavors. You might get notes of strawberry, blueberry or tropical fruit. More recently, honey processing and various anaerobic fermentation techniques have emerged, offering even greater control. These methods involve manipulating the amount of fruit mucilage left on the bean and the environment in which it ferments, creating a stunning diversity of flavors that were previously unimaginable in a cup of coffee. However, even the most exceptional, carefully processed specialty coffee can be ruined by one often overlooked ingredient: water. Coffee is, after all, more than 98% water, so its quality is paramount. Tap water can vary wildly in its mineral content and pH, which directly impacts extraction. Water that is too soft, lacking in minerals like magnesium and calcium, will struggle to pull flavor compounds from the coffee, resulting in a flat, uninteresting brew. These minerals are crucial as they effectively bind to the desirable flavor compounds in the coffee grounds and pull them into the solution. On the other hand, water that is too hard with excessive mineral content can lead to over-extraction and a chalky, dull taste. High levels of bicarbonate, for example, can buffer the coffee's delicate acids, muting the brightness and vibrancy that make a specialty coffee special. For this reason, many coffee enthusiasts and professionals use specifically filtered or even custom-built water. The goal is to achieve a neutral pH and a balanced mineral content. Enough calcium and magnesium to aid extraction, but not so much that it flattens the taste. It is the final crucial piece of the brewing puzzle. Beyond its captivating flavors and aromas, coffee has been the subject of extensive research regarding its effects on human health. For a long time, it was viewed with some suspicion, but the modern consensus is largely positive. One of the key reasons for this is coffee's incredibly high concentration of antioxidants. In fact, for many people in a typical Western diet, coffee is the single largest source of antioxidants. These compounds, primarily the chlorogenic acids we discussed earlier, help to combat oxidative stress in the body, which is linked to various chronic diseases and the aging process. Of course, we must address caffeine and its impact on the brain. When you drink coffee, caffeine is absorbed into the bloodstream and travels to the brain. There, its primary action is to block an inhibitory neurotransmitter called adenosine. As adenosine levels build up during the day, they signal the brain to slow down, leading to feelings of tiredness. By blocking adenosine, caffeine effectively increases neural firing in the brain and the release of other neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine. This is what leads to the feeling of enhanced alertness, improved focus, better mood, and even faster reaction times. The potential health benefits extend further. Numerous large-scale observational studies have linked regular coffee consumption with a lower risk of several serious diseases. This includes a reduced risk of developing type 2 diabetes, Parkinson's disease, and certain types of liver disease, including liver cancer. While correlation does not equal causation, and these studies don't prove coffee is the direct cause of these benefits, the consistency of the findings across vast populations is compelling and suggests a protective effect that warrants further investigation into the specific mechanisms at play. Ultimately, understanding the chemistry of coffee enriches our appreciation for it on every level. It transforms the simple act of brewing a cup into a mindful, creative process. It allows us to taste a coffee and understand not just what we are tasting, but why. From the Maillard reaction in the roaster to the precise extraction of acids and aromatics in your brewer, it's a journey governed by science. I encourage you to continue exploring, to experiment with your brewing variables, and to taste as many different coffees as you can. There is a whole world of flavor locked inside that little bean, just waiting for you to unlock it.